Welcome back to Grassroots Homestead. As you can see, it is a snow day. We got just a couple inches of powdered snow, so not too bad. But I'm just going to take you along today on animal chores so you can see what it's like to do animal chores in the snow. First thing I'm doing is drawing water for the pigs in a bucket. You don't really want to use hoses because they will freeze. And I'm going to feed them a bunch of food scraps. Hey, pigs. And set their pan down. And then get the food scraps. I gave the pigs all the food scraps, and they'll enjoy that. Now let's get their water put in. I think that the worst part about doing chores in the snow is that you're not sure whether to wear gloves or not, because you're working with your hands, and gloves hinder you from using your hands properly. But when you're not wearing gloves, your hands get super cold. And as you can see, it's pretty cold out here. It's been like a consistent 30 degrees Fahrenheit for a few days. And so far this year, I haven't been using any water heaters in the water for all the animals because it hasn't been too cold. And also, water heaters cost a lot of money with your electricity bill. So basically, I've just been filling up their waterers with fresh water from this spigot every day. And that's enough water for them to get by. Hey, Pepper. But another good thing to do is to provide nice dry hay or straw in the pig pen. That way, when the pig gets cold, they just burrow down into the straw. The chickens have been getting out, which we don't really care about, but there's no chicken food outside the pen, so we want to make sure they have access to fresh grain all the time. Alright, I put the pig scrap bucket back in the house, that way we can fill that up again. Going down the ramp, it's kind of slick. Alright, but I got a scoop of feed for the broilers, or the chicken tractors. We still have a couple broilers because a friend of ours gave us some broilers. So it's not ideal to have broilers in the winter, but you do what you gotta do. Hey, broilers. Alright, they have a little feed left, but I'll go ahead and give them some more. Alright, these guys are my Polish chickens. They haven't started laying yet. They should start soon, but when it's cold, you can't really expect them to lay much. But I'm gonna dump in some food and then get their water bowl out and fill that up. And we also put a cardboard box in there with some hay. Instead of using a heat lamp, which would, again, cost electrical money, we just put a cardboard box in there and they can nest down in that hay. Another tip for winter weather, to take the top of your waterer off. This is just a 3-gallon waterer, and it goes on like that. But this little spout where the water comes out oftentimes freezes. So if you just use a dish, it won't be as much water, but that way when it does freeze, you can just dump it out and refill it. Alright, now the meat chickens have feed and water. I gave them the big dish, and the egg chickens have water, and I put some feed on the ground over there. Today I'm not going to move them to new ground, because if we did, we'd be moving them right onto snow, and then they would get cold and possibly get sick, especially for the meat chickens. They're not a very hardy breed, so if they get too cold, they'll die. But I suppose the Polish chickens I could move and they'd probably be all right, but it's just best to leave them on the ground where they're at for today. Last thing I gotta do is this big pen where we're preparing our garden. We're gonna have a garden down there where all the chickens are and stuff. Is give the cow and the sheep some hay, maybe a little grain, and give the chickens water and grain if they need it, and gather the eggs. Look guys, I found tiny T-Rex tracks. Just kidding, it's just the chickens. Hey there, mouse. Even though a lot of people don't like mice, and they seem like such a nuisance, and everybody sets traps and tries to kill them all, these mice decided to make a little nest in the bottom of the cow feed bin. They have been surviving off of cow food, and they built this nest to stay warm. Eventually, I could kill these mice or get rid of them or feed them to the cats. Sounds gruesome, but that's how nature works sometimes. But for now, they're just living in that bin right there. They made their way in there where all this cow stuff is. And, you know, mice do play an important part in the ecosystem. They, for one, clean up your fields, you know, eat all the spoiled grains that nothing else will eat. So they're the cleanup crew. They'll also dig holes, which will aerate the soil. And they also provide food for animals like foxes and owls and hawks in the winter when there's not much other food around. So I'm just going to leave these mice in that bin back here. Where is it? Back there for now. But we'll see if they make their way out on their own, then we'll just let them, or we might feed them to one of the animals. Hey cow. Hey sheep. Alright, I gave them a bin of hay and a little thing of grain. Some farmers are against grain, but I'll tell you a secret. We're getting the hay and the grain for free. So in my mind, that's a win for us. And if we can feed our cow and the sheep for free, then who cares if we're feeding them a little grain here and there to keep them warm in the winter. Although, in the summer, when there's grass on the ground, we don't feed them hay or grain. We just feed them, rotationally graze them throughout the yard and feed them just grass, and they're good with that. Hey, chicken. Hey, chickens. Mariah's gathering the eggs. How many eggs is there today?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
10 eggs from this coop, and there might be a couple more under the house porch. Sometimes they lay eggs under the porch. Caroline is what we think a Rhode Island Red hen. She is the first hen that I ever hatched, actually the first chicken that I ever hatched. I started off with my little incubator. I did only 2 or 3 eggs, and only one of them hatched, and it happened to be Caroline the hen, and so this will be the only hen that never gets butchered. She'll live on the farm happily until she dies of natural causes. And as far as all the other ladies, they will be butchered once they stop laying eggs, because a hen stops laying eggs at 2 or 3 years old, and so we got to call out the old ones and bring in new ones. That way we keep our egg production good. So that way we have eggs for the customers, and we're still making money that way, because the old hens will still eat as much grain as the new hens. They just won't give you the eggs in return. All right, I am done with animal chores. I got the pigs fed. They're way out in that house back there. I got the layer hens some feed, I got them water. I got the cow and the sheep some feed, and I cracked the ice in their water, which is back there in the barn. And I fed the chickens in the chicken tractors way up there. I think that the main thing that slows you down in winter while you're doing animal chores, number one is getting all your wraps on. That takes a little time. But you know, you got to stay warm, obviously. And number two is carrying all the water by buckets. That just takes a lot longer than having hoses stretched everywhere. But you don't want your hoses to freeze and then crack, so it's best to just use buckets like they did in the olden days before hoses were invented. Well, that's pretty much all I have to say for today. Thanks for watching. I hope you stay warm and cozy, and I hope your chickens lay lots of eggs. See ya.
What? I thought he was it. Run! Run, Pigeon, run! No. Okay.